Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Shakin Hands. I'm your host, Jack Moran. You can find me on Instagram at Blue Collar Kid. That is Blue Collar KEHD. We have a super special guest today, one of my good buddies and the founder of YEW Inc, a sustainable wax company. What's going on, Hogan?
That was well said. I thought you were going to mess that up.
Nah,
really good.
yeah, hey, working on it.
How you doing? I'm already talking too close into the mic, but I'll figure it out as we go.
All good.
What's up, dude?
So kind of the theme of this podcast, as I told you, is to hopefully inspire entrepreneurs to make, or people who are young people to make the leap into entrepreneurship or just chase their passions and dreams. And you're someone who is doing that. So we had a pretty crazy start to the day. We got to the shop and there was a little foul play. Looks like somebody broke into the store. So we're here in the apartment now filming the podcast.
Yeah, never a dull day at the Hive, but just adds to the plot. It's pretty ironic too, because in the 4.5 years of being there, we've had some ups and downs, but never anything like this. So, the fact that you guys are here and it was happening, I was like, probably should have been rolling for that, but I keep chipping away, so we're all good. And yeah, the apartment's it's all right, but
Yeah. So how'd you get started? What was the journey into entrepreneurship?
It's a good question. I think for me, I always joke, as I was saying before, it's like glorified arts and crafts with a purpose, in a sense where, I may not mean anything to many people. I can expand on that later, but yeah, for me, I grew up playing a lot of sports. I always like to compete. Obviously, you win sometimes, you lose a lot more times. And, I think going through certain processes in life, for me, I always wanted to try and build stuff, whether that was, friendship with teammates, trying to win games, or, whatever, going to school, trying to do your best, all the above. But yeah, basically for me, it was accumulation of a lot of things. And I stumbled upon, this first project of mine, which, we could talk about more, but,
yeah. How'd you get into like the wax business?
Yeah, I think, so for me, when I first got out to California, it was around 2018. I'd grown up surfing, but, I was surfing a lot more once I'd got out here and was going to school. The company that I'd been using for, more or less my entire life, it's a great product, in a sense, good brand, but it, wasn't sustainable. But it was something that I was using all the time. So, for me, I wanted to stay around the sports that I grew up playing. One was hockey, another one was surfing. Both of them use wax in a sense. And, it was never to discredit another company or anything like that. But yeah, I saw, an opportunity to potentially make something that, kept me around sports, but also, in a sense where the world's getting more environmentally friendly, which is a good thing. No matter which way you go, it's, you can look at the environment as kind of like cleaning a room. Like, do you need to clean a room sometimes? Maybe, maybe not, but it's always good to have a clean room. So it's like with the environment, if you could use small things to, make a change, that's where, for me, wax was a small thing that if you could find a better way to do it and then also make it perform well, there was a whole, let's say in the market, but just like in reality, the social sphere of it. And yeah, it took time to, make a product work. But at the same time, too, I think, we really do care about the environmental side. But for something to, last long term, it's got to work well. And for me, that definitely kicked my, butt for the first few years.
You can say ass.
I was going to say, I don't know if this is like PG or not. I usually, start running with it. But anyways, yeah, like, I'd say, obviously, sports are difficult. I think the cool thing about like this, though, is something where you really are playing against yourself. And obviously, there's competition. But the cool thing about the competition is everyone's like, well, there's competitors or people do this or they say that. And it's like, I don't know, you never showed up to any place and you weren't the only person there trying out. You weren't the only person there competing. And it's like, I think that's where, you take all that stuff from, your past or whatever you want to call it and you put into this. And yeah, for me, like I said, it's, accumulation of a lot of stuff. So yeah.
So when you started the company when you came out here and moved out to California, so what did that look like in the very beginning? How did you make like the decision? Like, what was it like jumping into it? Was it scary? Were you just like, fuck it, this is what I'm doing? Or
it's a good question. I think, like I said, I wanted to stick around stuff. So for me, it was pretty natural. And I was excited to, focus my energy on something else as someone who's very regimented and, you know, obviously it wasn't the highest level, you know, else I would have been playing, but at the same time, to a certain level of sports where you're always going to the rink, you're always doing stuff, whatever it is. And like, you know, you spend a lot of time focusing on like certain goals or certain things. And obviously, you know, school is good and hobbies are good and all that. But like for me, it was good to focus on like, you know, a goal. And for me, it was, yeah, like, can you actually make something that even in the short term can sustain you having an excuse to maybe go surf 2 or 3 times a day instead of like, you know, doing something else. But yeah, so for me, I jumped right into it. But at the same time too, you know, in context, as far as like the business side goes, it was something where, you know, you see the hole in the market, you see a product that, you know, is essential in a sense. You know, it'll always be around no matter how boards change. Yes, you know, some people say you won't need to use wax at certain points, but there's no point in not putting a little bit of something on. So if you look at it in like nitty gritty terms, an essential good, something that, you know, has been around forever, will continue to be around, but like, you know, like I said, not great for the environment. So can you make it more sustainable? Okay, that's one task. Then you'll obviously have competitors. Yes, you can like patent pending something, but it does come down to like a recipe. How do you make the best recipe? How do you get it off the shelf? Sex Wax, you know, is the brand and a great brand, you know, for a long time. They still are, but you know, the environmental side isn't good. And, you know, there's, you know, Bloomberg, the terminal.
No.
It's like a financial terminal, but basically years ago, I was sitting in a desk when I was in school and, you know, it was like an internship, a bank, whatever.
Bloomberg, it's like a magazine or something, right? Yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
Bloomberg's like a financial terminal. So it's like if you...
What do you mean terminal?
It's like basically like a plug-in. I'm not good with technical terms. So basically if you're like in a, you know, a bank and you need to get certain information or you need to communicate with people, it's a plug into like your system where everyone communicates through.
Oh, it's like a forum?
A forum, basically.
Gotcha.
We can either keep that in there to show my lack of definitions or, you know, we could cut that out. But anyways, yeah, so whatever it is, yeah, it's a forum, but I think it's more than that. But anyways, I'll let someone at Bloomberg explain Bloomberg. But long story short, yeah, there was an article that was published that basically said like top 10 mom and pop shops that went big or something like that. And, you know, it was like Dell Computer, Hogan Peters, Yankee Candle, like weird things. And I think it was like number 7 on the list and Dell was number 8. It was Mr. Zog Sex Wax. And, you know, the only thing was what was surfing, ? It's the name that sold. And, you know, if you look at how the culture was, you know, in certain industries outside of surfing where, you know, sex was glorified and all this other stuff, like a name sold and it got bars off the shelf, but also there was definitely, you know, less competitors then. So for me, obviously sustainability was good, but like, you know, it's really hard to beat, you know, branding's a big thing. And that's where, you know, a word like voice crack that I usually do better than, you know, it's been used specifically in like, you know, surf culture for a long time. But even if you go like to Canadian hockey tournaments or upstate, like, you know, it depends on the teams, it varies, but like you do hear the word like you when you score. Yeah, fuck, yeah, my voice is cracking. I say it all the time. I should be way better at saying it right now. But so it was a long night last night. It was a good comedy show, but long night. But anyways,
epic parties at you as well.
Yeah, you know, we do our best. We try. But yeah, where was I going with that? A little off tangent there.
The branding of you.
Thank you. Exactly. How could I forget? No, but yeah, so basically word's been around a lot of sports that, you know, I had resonated with and, you know, it's an expression. Obviously you could look it up on Google and say expression of stoke, all these different things. But like for us, it was something that just the sound, not even the word, the sound is something that people resonated with. Very
auditory.
And, you know, I always said, you know, you're going to look on a shelf and like sex wax sells, but like YEW, like you and the voice, if you're, you know, someone who's just getting into the sport and you're out getting lessons or you hear stuff, there's a good chance you're going to hear that word. And, you know, to draw a correlation to a product, to a word, you know, I thought was good, but it also, you know, the bigger goal being that if you're making something that's sustainable, you got to get it off the shelf in some way. And, you know, I'd say a lot of the times people think something's sustainable, they question how good it's going to perform. And I think like paper straw is a really good example. You know, paper straw works great as a concept, but as a functioning product, now that thing's disintegrating. And it's this tough thing where, yes, obviously you want to stop plastic waste, but if stuff's falling apart and it's pissing people off, they're going to go to another alternative. And if it's not sustainable, it just goes into this whole spiral. So for us, I did think that making the actual wax, let's just say, would be easier. It's just wax. You melt some stuff, you put sticky stuff in it, you don't, it should just work. But you realize that like natural ingredients, they really, like they work with the environment. If it's cold, they get hard. If it's hot, they melt. And in, let's say, even like, surfing or hockey, that's two totally different sports, but at the same time, it's water. And, the ice versus the air temperature in a rink is different. So it changes the structure of the wax, the air temperature, the humidity, let's say even like in Panama where you are, versus, yes, the water is going to be warmer than it is here, but still that change in temperature changes how the wax works. Where if it was like chemically enhanced, or you're working with paraffin, where, even soy, how those things are broken down, they withstand certain temperature changes and allow them to do, certain things. Whereas beeswax, though, our main ingredient, it is like, beeswax stays around for forever in a sense, where like I think this is even online, like someone can look this up, but there's like even like articles where like beeswax has been found in tombs from like the Egyptians. So like, obviously beeswax is still durable. Don't get me wrong. It's more the fact that the other stuff, the way it's, enhanced unnaturally, it allows it to work in certain ways. So for us, that was like the big learning curve. But we,
how to get it to perform and still be sustainable.
Exactly. We can edit some of this. I know I'm like rambling.
No, dude, you're good. It's good that you're just talking, and that's like the best way. It makes it super easy on me. So okay, big takeaway. You're like a mad scientist with the wax. What is the as you were like developing this company, was it all smooth sailing or a lot of hurdles? Like we talk a lot about adversity on this.
Totally. I mean, like, let's just start with how the day started. We're shooting the apartment right now. We should have been shooting at the shop. And, it's like that's a tiny thing, but I think it's like one of those things where it's the not the hardest part, but I'd say for like this and a company, especially in like niche sports or whatever you want to call it, like it's patience and it's kind of battling through it and like earning your stripes, like in the sense of, like the cash flows are different. It's not like you sell one thing and like you're cruising. It's a volume game. You're selling a lot of stuff. So that's an issue, not an issue, but that's a hard, it's a hurdle. We've thankfully, been able to figure it out in, a lot of our areas, and, we're expanding to other spots, but now that just like other countries, hundreds of stores, whatever it is, but like that didn't come overnight. It took years. Whereas like, I think if you ask, I joke like ignorance is bliss, like my naive self allowed us to like do a bunch of stuff to like get here. But trust me, I think I knew it was going to be tough, but I did not think, certain things would have been as much. And I think for me though, too, it's, we're all young here, and it's more like figuring yourself out with this stuff. Cause like, I used to think I knew so much more about like business and work and like all this stuff, where like, I realize every day you don't know jack shit. But like at the same time, the more you don't know, the more you figure out, if that makes any sense. And it's like,
right.
Yeah. Like we've chipped away, but yeah, there are definitely hurdles. And I mean, like nitty gritties on it is sure. Like I've always joked about this. My first formula as a ratio didn't even equal 100%. So like let's say my elementary school math wasn't even correct. I didn't even know what percentage it equal like 113. So when you're doing that, it's like, wait, like this kid, like, anyways, point is that probably should have been a scientist to start. But I'd say, we were fortunate enough through, the idea and connections in life that we had Stanford interns. We had a good team growing up, and it was one of those things where Stanford interns, but actually, wait a few. But anyways, we can cut that out. But to the point where
there will be no cutting anything.
And they were all great, like loved them. But like, think of this, like I'm a history major, figuring it out, and through a good friend of mine who helped with the logo and other stuff. He's a great guy, but he, through that we connected with other people, and because of sustainability, because, we're all young and we're all, all trying to do stuff, like we did have opportunities where, at no point in time was when I was, let's say, playing hockey or surfing and all that, was I ever thinking about like applying to Stanford. And you're sitting in like a room and you're like, oh, well, you have an opportunity to get an intern, and that intern, whatever. But like that usually doesn't happen when you're in a college dorm room. So the point is it started off well, and you're thinking like, oh, great, like we got this, we got the environment, we got a great name, we're all around sports, logo's cool, we know about branding, and we got a ton of energy. And, this is going to be sick. And I think that we, as you get kicked around a bunch, and, you get hidden sports, you don't make teams, you don't do well on certain tests, you don't do whatever it is. And like that stuff sucks. But I think, you learn from it. Whereas this though, when it's like a very like one-on-one game and you're worried about, let's say, people around you and money and everything else, it's like, you realize like it's real life. Whereas like you paid to play sports, or you paid to go to school, or, whatever it is. And like you get to the point where, yeah, like I'm fortunate to have, a great support system, whether it's through family and friends. But, I've definitely been tough along the way too. Cause, I'd like to think that, it's tough. So definitely ups and downs, but that's all part of it. And I think that's where, you hope that you do this one correct, and it's the first of many, and that you can continue to, grow and build shit. And I used to say like always be building, in the sense of like, it sounds kind of corny, but it's like, no, like each day try and do better stuff. And like, that doesn't mean you gotta get rid of all your bad habits at once. Like, who am I? Like I gotta play, we're partying later on, like, whatever it is. But at the same time too, like, no, like, all right, like if you're like into fucking the balance board, or you're into this, like, make sure you do that like all the time. Like I used to have like hockeyers to be like, do 100 push-ups a day. Shit, I probably should have. I would have been better and I would have looked way cooler. But I'm like, no, like I don't need to do push-ups. You got to 4, and I'm like, my arms are shaking. I'm like, no, I'll just go play video games. And like, granted, Catch-22, all roads lead to like, adult league sports and whatever. But I still play a little bit of video games here and there too. And it's like, now you got both. So maybe not all the push-ups, but that time spent playing, a little chiller Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Helps.
Yeah, and like it's a true testament, even seeing how you handled that situation with the store break-in. Like entrepreneurship is about, keeping your temperament and staying calm during adversity. And most people, they come to their storefront and somebody's tried to break in with a crowbar and I never knew the wax company or wax industry was so hostile, and they rip out your plants, like would be freaking the fuck out. But you rebounded, you stayed completely cool. It was just like another day in the life of an entrepreneur. We're here on the podcast now, like not even thinking about it. So it's like, that really is the testament of a true entrepreneur, is like staying calm during a situation like that. And you can see that you're experienced. Like,
let's put it this way, like for good or for bad. I mean, clearly things happen enough that, you get used to it. I think years ago, I would have been bugging out. I mean, trust me, I was still like, this sucks. What the fuck is going on? But, obviously cooler heads prevail. We figure it out. But no, it's been a learning curve. Like for me, even, through time, through all this. And that's where I think, once again, like at our age, we have the ability more in a sense where, you got responsibilities, but like, let's be real, they're way less than, even people that are younger that have families and all that stuff. Like there's a lot more stuff where, for me, it's like, okay, these things kick you in the butt. I definitely could be better in a lot of ways, but at the same time too, like, shit, we're learning. We're all trying to figure it out. And, I think that...
And it's certainly not going to be the last time something fucking happens,
Gosh,
so...
no. I mean, that's like nothing. And, you
have to expect the adversity.
And I was looking at it too, like, oh, if you go steal the product, as long as like it goes to somewhere, as long as you don't burn it, like shit, it's free marketing, like whatever. But like, that's not saying, don't be thieves, but like, whatever. But yeah, no, like it is what it is. Like, I think it's one of those things where, anything can happen, and, you play the game, shit happens. But that is something where that doesn't happen often. So that was, that I don't.
That was an anomaly.
Yeah, it's but.
What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you on your entrepreneurship journey?
That's a good question. You want like the business side or the emotional side? No,
whatever you want.
No, I'd say that none of it is bad. It's all part of it. I think the fact that, like I take things very seriously, and I think it allows me to get to like a certain level of energy. But I think at the same time too, like, at certain phases in life, like you take some things maybe too serious, or you're too tough, and you maybe burn a couple bridges, or, do stuff where, I think for me, it was like, is people. Like when you're young, I make stuff where I hope that you bring people together, but you realize that like expectations, some people don't understand a startup, and even me at a time, like you want to do your best, but I think for me, it's like, let's say like, my family, they're super supportive, but you know, I've definitely been tougher on them through this process because I'm more in my head. You hear noise. You know, obviously you say like, oh, you don't let comments or you don't let, you know, people affect you. Don't let anyone get in your head. But, you know, it gets to a point where, no, you hear a lot of noise. And I think because of that, you know, I've definitely, you know, edgy or whatever that is. But for me, that's, I'd say the biggest negative, but also the biggest learning thing, because I think for us who are making stuff, big part of it too is people. And you don't want to manage people because, you know, then you're managing them, but you want to be able to relate to people. And I think that going through all this stuff, you know, it humbles you, kicks your ass. Then you also get cocky. And it's like this whole crazy thing of like, I don't know if it's self-induced stutter, no, ADHD, but you know, it's
like an emotional storm.
It's just this whole thing. And I think that's, you know, figuring it all out. Whereas I give credit to, you know, older people that are trying to do this stuff and they have, you know, yeah, like I said, a lot of different responsibilities, because I think that's when it gets tough. And for
so it's better to start early.
It's easy to hide in your, you know, in your apartment or in your hive and go make wax and go figure all this stuff out in your head and build. And I think like that's where it's cool. Whereas if you're sitting at a desk job, you're focused, and there's nothing against it. I give a lot of credit to people doing it. I think it's, you know, it's awesome. But you're thinking about your job, but you're thinking about so much of like, you know, and this is me speaking from experience. Obviously everyone thinks different ways, but like, you know, I'm sitting there thinking of what do I need to get done to get through the day? Whereas this, I feel like lazy, if that makes sense. We're always going, but I never feel like you're getting enough done. And like, that's where like folding a box, I'm like pointing them like the camera can see it, but like, that's where like folding a box or seeing a finished product, like, you know, that to me is therapeutic in the sense of like, all right, cool. Like we actually like check something off the list. Whereas I think everything else is like always in motion. And, you know, the always in motion part, yeah, it was definitely harder to deal with, I guess, you know, years ago, and we're rolling with it. But, you know, hopefully, you know.
How do you deal with the noise?
It's a good question. Listen to it sometimes and tune it out the other times. And how do you tune it out? You just keep listening to it and you start to ignore it. I think it gets to a level of like, the more annoying, yeah, like.
The feedback is good, but like getting emotional about it and bringing the emotion and letting it affect your decisions, like,
yeah,
is bad, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think for me, like, it's one of those things where, let's say like chirps or like someone talking shit, like you know, some people don't like getting like nudged. I personally like
just fires you up.
Like fire in my ass. Like if you're like, yo, like you're like, obviously I know I'm looking like clowny on this thing right now. I'll watch this and you're doing a great job. And I'll be like, yeah, fuck, I sound like such a fool. But like to the point where I'll go like, should I be more businessy? Should I be shaking it? And like you think of all these things and it's like, you know.
But even that thought process that you're going through, like just makes you you. And it's good to get that like internal look at like how your brain works. You know, it's not like it is just that character. Just you even analyzing that is what makes you you.
Exactly. But it's an interesting thing where I think sometimes like fewer words though gets the job done. So like when you're listening, like I'm not a, you know, I won't say I'm not a big reader, big podcast. Like I like things, but because there's so much noise, I know what I need to get done right now. And I've already heard a lot of advice where I'm like, you know what? And that's like to everyone else, like we all got a lot of shit to say and everyone's doing their own thing, but like do your own thing and like you'll figure it out through the process. And I think all these things help. But you know, where going with that is I totally forgot. I stared right in that bright light and it just got all.
What's the best use of your time? Like you think for you, like what's the best use of your.
Interesting. So it changes
because you obviously get spread thin into like bullshit you don't want to do. But like if you could spend all your time on one thing, what would be the most beneficial thing to you as a company?
It's a good question. I think that this can be perceived as laziness because my younger self would have been like, no, you always got to be on the move. There's something about like sitting down, turning all the lights off, putting blank noise on for like hours. I know it sounds like psycho, but
I agree.
But you learn and you go through all these things where you then go, okay, I just sat down for so long that I haven't done anything. You get antsy. And that kind of like stuff, you know, which you've learned through experiences and like, you know, like I keep going back to sports, but it's the same thing in school. Like obviously study, do your stuff. Like there's certain tasks that, you know, you may get a paper that was assigned at the start of the semester, but you're saving it to like the night before and like shit, you still got to get that thing done. So like to the point where I think it's the same thing with the company. If you're doing something at a startup level for like an extended period of time, you got to get caught in like this time warp. And you think that either you're not doing enough or you're doing too much. and then you're manic, and then, you know, there's certain energies are bad, and then the people around you, whatever. But to the point where I'm going is, you sit down, for me, to be able to think and like kind of, let's say, envision what I want to be doing next, and then to be so pissed off at myself that I just sat there for 4 hours thinking about the shit with the lights off. It's weird. I go out there and I do it. But like that kind of like, you know, I think I hate when people say rinse and repeat, but it's true. Like just doing stuff over and over again, like it helps. And I've seen that to be the biggest thing, because when I'm kind of clear and the vision's clear, you're then able to work better with the people around you. And, you know, if it's all, you know, I still, you know, love folding bars and making wax because you see it finish good. So like, that's good. But as far as like other stuff, it is nice to be able to slowly, you know, put responsibility within, like, you know, like I say, like my teammates, and that helps us get to, you know, a different spot. Whereas like, I'm still the kind of kid though that like, yeah, like I want to be doing everything, because I don't like
you take pride in the brand.
Yeah. If I don't like, if I'm
it's
not
your baby.
But exactly. But also to go on the baby point, I think that, yeah, like it's a weird thing, but like, yeah, like you really do, like you put so much time and like you kind of, it's tunnel vision in a sense. And you know, that's where I was going with like emotions and stuff in the past. Like yeah, like it's just, you know.
And it's interesting that you're saying that you visualize, like, I don't know if you've ever heard the study where they talk about like, they did an experiment with these, and an NBA, it was either NBA or college basketball players. And they divided them into 3 groups. One group, it was a free throw competition. So one group, they had continue practicing shooting free throws. And obviously they tested them before. So however many free throws this group hit on average was like the baseline number. Then they took one of the 3 groups and had them shoot free throws and practice every day as usual. They had the second group completely stop doing anything basketball, not even thinking about basketball. And then the third group, they just had them visualize shooting free throws. And the results were, the group that stopped playing basketball completely, they declined from their original baseline number. The group that was practicing and shooting free throws every single day, and I'm going to butcher these numbers, I think they increased like 16 or 17%. In the group that just sat there and visualized them shooting free throws, it was 1% below whatever the group was that was shooting free throws. So like that time, like it really does like manifest it into reality when you're using your imagination, like that neuroplasticity, you're materializing that imagination.
That was a very good way of putting that. No, I completely agree. Like, and in a sense where obviously everyone's different, but I do, yeah, there's proof in the pudding. And I would, you know, I'd like to see that study, but I'd like to see that study go a little further and say, okay, what was the next tier? So the guys or the girls or whomever it was that shot, you know, just 1% below, what happened in the next 48 hours if they were both practicing at the same rate? Because I think that's the bigger study.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's the bigger study, because it's like, okay, like, because that's what the point I'm trying to make there is like, okay, I visualized it, and am I wasting time? Am I being lazy? Because I always say, like, anyone can sit there and think about something. A lot of people have ideas, and like, you know, I've been told that over and over again, because I like to think, oh, I got a lot of ideas, but like, it is about execution. Like, you gotta do it. And like, so I think it gets misconstrued, or at least like, you know, for me, I used to think like, oh, like I'm sitting around, like I'm not doing anything. And it's like, no, like I look back, and the more long things that I wrote to myself, or the more things that like, you know, I spitballed with on my computer, whatever it was, like I could physically see all those things in the room now. Whereas like, yeah, like I could, you know, you can make stuff, but I think the quality, the details and all that stuff is like, yeah, what potentially gets you to longevity. And like I keep saying to you, like for me, I like this shit. Like, and obviously, you know, you need money to do good things, and you need money to support people, and you need money to grow. So, you know, that's where, yeah, money is still, you know, as people say, money is still king. But at the same time too, it's like, like if you could find a way, I'm saying like a bunch here, because clearly I haven't thought this fully through, but it's like, you know, if you could find ways to make money, but still do what you care about, I think that's where, you know, the whole sell for me is that, yeah, you know, take a risk on it, try it, do what you can do. And it's not going to be easy. And in the sense where like you could be a genius, like on paper, in any sense, you can be whatever it is. And sometimes
you don't have the grit,
but sometimes it goes great, and like, or sometimes it doesn't. And like, you know, it could be grit or it could be character, it could be this, but it's like everyone's still trying. So like, I give credit to anyone who's like trying. That being said, you asked me that question 2 years ago. No, like I'm competitive. I'm like, oh, like they're doing that, like I gotta beat them. But it's like, no, you want to, especially the people around you. Like, you know, you like I want to see, the more you see your friends, your family, people do well. Like, you know, whomever it is, even people in your past lives, whatever. Like, the more people do well, like the better that is. And like, you know, I think that's where that sometimes gets like misconstrued as soft, because then you bring it back to like sports. It's like, no, you got to be competitive though still, because to do well, you still need to compete. And I think that for me is like the tough part the further we get in the process. I was probably more competitive. The word empathy is a funny thing, but like less empathetic then. Whereas I always joke that I'm a little more like, at least, you know, recently, a little more like not timid, but softer, but it works in a sense where, you know, yeah, you realize, especially like in a place where we're at, you know, everyone's trying to figure it out. You have employees that are our age or teammates that are our age, and it's like we're all going through stuff. And, you know, I think you're sitting at like a desk job, and it's like one of those things where it's more difficult to sometimes talk to the person next to you. Whereas, you know, you're in a place like ours, you're making wax, you're filling boxes, you're shooting content, like it does feel more of like a family. And, you know, that's where, yeah, like that's got its ups and downs, but it's something that, you know, yeah, it's also a good thing too. So
you say before, like, and you've said a couple times, like how you're really competitive. Is there anybody that you would want to look in the face when this is all over and say, I told you so? Like, is there anyone that you're doing this for to be like?
Myself, straight up. Yeah, I think that's like the best way to say it, because years ago I would have given you a list. I still got a list of like, oh yeah, I want to beat some people. Absolutely. But I think at the end of it, like that's where, if we're really winning, it's like, no, like I can actually,
fuck everybody else.
Yeah, like you can, like it, but like also too, like, you know, yeah, I like the game though. Like if everyone wasn't playing, like then like, you know, whatever. But so yeah, you know, yeah, myself, I think that like bottom line, but like genuinely, like, however, yeah, if my toes get stepped on, like I like, for me, it's fun to say fuck, and it doesn't hurt me as much. Like if you were to me like, yo, fuck you, I'm gonna beat you, I'm like, all right, like say let's go.
Let's go to the Thunderdome, baby. I'll meet you in the arena.
And there's a chance that, you know, like I said, you win some, you lose a lot, but like it's all relative. And like for me, it's like, yeah, like, you know, so I think it's more like I keep saying, the process of building stuff, the process of like, you know, ourselves, like that's where for me, you know, I think I could have gone out there and potentially made like a different company, done different things, but you know, it wouldn't have been the same, at least to start, where that, you know, hockey, surfing, I just like being around sports. That's something I could resonate with. And that's allowed this process to be, let's say, like a little bit easier when you're dealing with it. Whereas like, you know, if I was dealing with something that I wasn't as, I'd say I was knowledgeable in wax, but at least I liked the sports, you know, it made that part easier. But at the same time too, it's, you know, it's always a challenge. But basically I'm saying, do the shit that you like to do, and you know, if you have the opportunity to figure it out, awesome. But at the same time too, I think that people find opportunities, but like, you know, obviously support's a big thing. You know, if I didn't have the support that I had, whether it was friends or family, like it's hard to do. And that's where I think though, talk about the dark room, you really put like people in it. That's where you see some people really excel though. And I'm like, dang, like that's impressive when they're really coming from like a really tough spot and they're, you know, doing it. There's something to that. There's a reason why those people figure it out. And I think like that's, you know, that's an interesting part too. So, you know.
How do you define success? Like, what are you chasing after?
Years ago, I would have said money and happiness or whatever. But now just to your question before, to kind of be able to tell myself, I told you so. Like that's where, I don't know what the definition or the psychoanalysis on that would be. But yeah, like, you know, I want to win. And I don't necessarily what I want to win at. But sure, would it be cool to have, you know, enough money to do cool things, to make, and by cool things, maybe make more, you know, sports teams, to maybe open up more events in different countries, to maybe, you know, be able to bring people to different places and to create more, you know, whatever it is. Or you can go on and on about it. But like, yeah, that's where, you know, in a world where you need money, that's, you know, the hope would be to have that. But as I always say, like, it's not like I have a dream for like a car or a certain house. Would it be nice to have a cool place where everyone can come and do some great? But I think at the same time too, none of that within the past few years even comes into mind. Whereas like when I started, that was like it'd be great to have all these, like I call it like sprinkles, like all that good shit. But then it's like, what's really good? Because you could sell or make something that, you could dupe a lot of people and do a lot of bad shit and probably make money or do whatever it is. Whereas like for us, we try, and, I think that it's taken longer and, whatever, but we're trying to figure it out. So,
What would Hogan today tell Hogan 5-6 years ago or whenever, you started the company?
It's a good question. A lot of things, but I'd say that keep going. It's taken longer than you would have thought, but keep going. And stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy. I think that's interesting. We're young, but still, I think that's what I tell myself. And as far as, because, we'll end it with, on my end, as far as the business goes, it's personal. I care. But as far as anyone watching this, like, you don't necessarily need to, like, fully know what you're doing or fully care. It kind of comes along the way. And just try and do something. Like, if you feel like this, like, thing in your gut that, I should go do something, try it out. And if you're crazy enough and competitive enough that, like, the idea still sits with you a few months later, half a year later, like, push away at it. And if you don't get there, you're not lazy, but you just really don't like the idea that much. And I think that's where it's like, yeah.
So this is kind of my final question. If you had $1 million of guilt-free money right now that you could deploy to the company, what would you use it on?
It's a great question. I would say for us, it'd be more working with more sustainable beekeepers, bee-centric beekeepers, finding a way to support them. So we're, sourcing from different places, creating more jobs. And, obviously we wouldn't even need $1 million for that. So, once you do that, you want to keep that growing long-term. Some of the money would go to, supporting our team. And then the rest of it would be going to, we've done a pretty good job of always at least trying to be real. And, our marketing is good, sometimes a little cheesy, but that's what sells, these days and gets clicks. And I think part of that would be, going into marketing, whether that's finding a way to support more athletes and, helping their narrative of them being more sustainable, but also using something that's, a little more new school. That, so I think there's tiers to that $1 million. But if it was just, Hogan, here's $1 million, outside of the business, I honestly couldn't tell you, and I think that's,
the business is your life.
That's where, would I, simple answer, I give it, I'd pay back, for my family taking care of me for my life. I'd pay that back and all that stuff. But, that's where they're too cool for that. They wouldn't want that. So that's my point. It's a different, different thing. So anyways,
what are some like final comments that you would give to someone that may be like thinking about barreling into the journey of entrepreneurship or is just getting started out?
It's a good question. I'd say, like I said, if you feel like you should be doing something, give it a try. If it sticks, keep going with it. Don't force a project, but if it seems like a good opportunity and you haven't fully figured out what you want to do yet, it's probably a cool opportunity to at least learn a couple things and get creative. So, take any opportunity you can to go and build and work hard and, know that it's going to be tough, but hey, like, it'll work out. It just depends to what level you're looking for it to work out. So,
Yeah, everyone measures it differently. Where can people find you? Where can they buy your stuff?
It's a good question. Our website is YEWstoked, YEWSTOKED.com. We do a lot of online sales. We're in over 300 stores in the US and, North America for hockey, Pure Hockey being, one of the bigger ones. Monkey Sports being another, this is going to go out, so not that they're going to watch this, but, everyone that's, all the stores, all of our buyers, appreciate the support. Doubt any of you will watch this, but if you do, we're just throwing that in there. But to all the kids though that are, they're, just ask for UX at any of your, hockey shops. As far as surf shops goes, we're in a bunch, but I'd say, go more, online for us. That allows us to, support more of our, beekeepers and all that other stuff and, whatever. But at the same time too, You can find some bars in Panama. This guy's been a legend at it. So, you know, we're figuring that all out too. And, you know, maybe for, you know, we'll do round 2 of this in Panama with the boys. And,
hell yeah.
you know, we'll do, I don't know, it's up to you.
No,
if
absolutely.
I get invited back, you know.
I love the brand. So it's like easy for me to just like plug it to people. I think it's a sick brand. So it's like, yeah, it's an easy pass through for me. Like,
Appreciate
and it's a good present. I think that the last one I did was like, just made like a donation to some surf kids. Yeah.
He knows good business. Like he pays on time. He does the right thing, and that's where there's longevity.
Appreciate it.
You know, like that's where you're the man. But you know,
your favorite, my favorite term that you ever told me was watchpreneurs. I see them all the time now.
Entrepreneurs, exactly. And honestly, I don't even know if I could. I definitely didn't coin that. I heard that somewhere.
You're the first person I ever heard that from.
I heard it randomly. Someone, honestly, it could have even been on TV. That's where like I try not to use, but it is like you don't hear it often. But someone says me, and I was just like cracking up, and I did. I used it with you, and it is. It's one of. So that's where, that was a couple of years ago. I talked a lot more shit back then. And it's like, you realize everyone's trying to figure it out, but still, don't lose the competitive side. You know, I still look like, you know, coming from the kid in the pink hoodie, but, you know, don't let that fool you. So, you know.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
100%. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. All right. Well, that concludes episode 7 of Shakin' Hands. I'm your host, Jack Moran. You can find me on Instagram at Blue Collar Kid. That is Blue Collar KEHD. If you like what you heard today or saw, please tune in next time for some more interesting conversations and people. Thanks, guys. See you later.